Since late February 2026, the United States and Israel have been engaged in a war with Iran and its regional allies, one of the most significant conflicts in the Middle East in decades. What began as a surprise round of airstrikes has grown into a months-long confrontation involving missile exchanges, a blockade of one of the world's busiest oil routes, and diplomacy that has repeatedly broken down. In the next few minutes, we'll walk through how this conflict started, the key flashpoints driving it, its human and economic toll, and where things stand today. The roots of this war run deep. A 1953 coup backed by the US and UK and the 1979 Islamic Revolution left Iran and the West deeply estranged. Decades of proxy tensions followed, punctuated by Iran's nuclear program, which the 2015 JCPOA agreement was designed to constrain. In 2018, the first Trump administration withdrew from that deal and reimposed sanctions. Tensions spiked again in June 2025 when Israel and Iran fought a 12-day war that included a US strike on Iranian nuclear facilities. Then in January 2026, Iranian security forces cracked down hard on nationwide protests. Washington responded with threats of military action and the largest US military buildup in the region since 2003, setting the stage for what came next. Two flashpoints define this conflict. The first is the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway carrying roughly a fifth of the world's oil. Iran has repeatedly restricted or closed it, disrupting global shipping. The second is Iran's network of regional partners, sometimes called the Axis of Resistance, including Hezbollah in Lebanon and the Houthis in Yemen, who have launched their own strikes in solidarity with Tehran. Meanwhile, Gulf Arab states like Qatar, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and Kuwait, many hosting US military bases, have found themselves targeted by Iranian missiles and drones, despite not being direct parties to the war. This exposure has turned a bilateral conflict into a region-wide crisis. Iran's nuclear program sits at the heart of the dispute. The International Atomic Energy Agency has said it found no evidence Iran is actively building a weapon, even as it acknowledges Iran's enrichment activity and reduced access to bomb sites make full verification difficult. Iran maintains its program is for civilian energy, and a religious ruling from its late supreme leader formally banned nuclear weapons. Some analysts describe Iran's approach as a nuclear hedging, building latent capability without crossing the weapons threshold. Meanwhile, the reimposition of United Nations sanctions in September 2025, followed by further US measures, sharply weakened Iran's currency and economy, adding pressure on Tehran's heading into the war. The war opened on February 28, 2026, with coordinated US and Israeli strikes that killed Iran's supreme leader and senior officials. Iran responded with missiles and drones against Israel, US bases, and neighboring Gulf country states. After more than 5 weeks of fighting, a Pakistan-brokered ceasefire took hold on April 8, though tensions over the Strait of Hormuz continued. A memorandum of understanding in June aimed to formally end the conflict, but in early July, after Iran struck commercial vessels bypassing its approved shipping routes, the truce collapsed and both sides resumed strikes. As of this recording in late July, fighting continues, oil markets remain volatile, and mediators from Qatar, Pakistan, and Egypt are pushing a new ceasefire proposal. Militarily, this has been a lopsided but costly fight. The US and Israel have relied on carrier strike groups, stealth fighters, long range bombers, and layered missile defenses. Iran has answered with large ballistic missile and drone arsenals, naval mining in the Gulf, and its network of allied militias. Casualty figures differ dramatically depending on the source. US and Israeli officials report their own losses in the dozens, while estimating thousands of Iranian military casualties. Iranian and independent monitors report thousands of deaths on their side, including both military and civilian, and dispute the higher outside estimates. All parties have restricted independent verification, so exact figures remain unconfirmed. Beyond the battlefield, this war has rattled the global economy. The International Energy Agency has called the disruption to Gulf oil exports the largest supply shock in the history of the oil market. Brent crude, which traded around $70 a barrel before the war, spiked past $110 during the worst of the fighting, before easing and then climbing again as hostilities resumed in July. Gulf aviation and tourism have been hit hard, with flights out of major hubs cut by more than half. The World Bank has since lowered its global growth forecast, citing the conflict as a major contributing factor to renewed inflation pressure worldwide. Diplomacy has run alongside the fighting throughout. Pakistan emerged as the key mediator, brokering the April ceasefire and a June memorandum meant to formally end the war. At the United Nations, Secretary General Antonio Guterres condemned the initial US-Israeli strikes, while the Security Council later passed a resolution condemning Iran's retaliatory attacks on Gulf states. The episode has also sparked a legal debate. Some international law scholars argue the opening strikes violated Iran's sovereignty, while US and Israeli officials maintain they acted in self-defense against an imminent threat. That disagreement remains unresolved, and it continues to shape how each side frames the conflict publicly. Looking ahead, analysts broadly see two paths. In a de-escalation scenario, a durable ceasefire takes hold, the Strait of Hormuz reopens to normal traffic, and negotiations produce a lasting framework on Iran's nuclear and missile programs. In an escalation scenario, fighting continues or widens, drawing in more regional actors and prolonging the blockade with further economic damage. As of late July 2026, mediators from Qatar, Pakistan, and Egypt have proposed a new 10-day ceasefire to reopen shipping routes, though US officials have so far said Iran is not yet ready for a serious deal. Which path prevails remains genuinely uncertain. To sum up, the 2026 Iran war grew out of decades of nuclear standoff, regional rivalry, and broken diplomacy, igniting in February with the strikes that killed Iran's top leadership. It has since drawn in Gulf states, disrupted global oil markets, and cost thousands of lives by various estimates, all while ceasefires have repeatedly formed and collapsed. As of this recording, the conflict remains unresolved, with renewed remediation efforts underway but no durable peace in sight. Whatever happens next, this war has already reshaped Middle East security dynamics and global energy markets in ways likely to be felt for years to come. Thank you for watching it.